Money FM 89.3. Best of breakfast. Breakfast Special.
Thanks for joining us on the Breakfast Special with Audrey and Emaad Akhtar. And today we head to South Korea.
To talk about Blackpink? BTS?
Unfortunately, no. It has been made official that President Yoon Suk-yeol has been removed from office. So the country's constitutional court has upheld his impeachment in a landmark ruling. And it means Yoon's presidency is over. And within 60 days, the country has to elect a new leader in accordance with their constitution. Now, if you've been following this story with us here on The Breakfast Show, you'll remember that Yoon sparked the nation's worst political crisis in decades. This was last December over his imposition of martial law. Now, we have covered the massive protests in the lead up to this decision. Hundreds of thousands of South Koreans flooded the streets, some cheering, others furious. And throughout all of this, deliberations dragged on at the highest levels of government. And in fact, this became the longest presidential impeachment case in South Korean history. But now, finally, the verdict is in.
Yep, the verdict is in. The people have spoken and former President Yoon is out. Now, he did issue a statement after the latest verdict indicating that he is truly sorry and heartbroken that he was unable to meet the expectations of the people. Now, he may be out of office and out of the political spotlight for the time being, but his legal troubles are far from over. So he no longer has presidential immunity, which means he's now vulnerable to more criminal charges, including the ongoing insurrection trial, which began in February. Now, prosecutors say that Mr. Yoon committed insurrection when he banned all political activities and ordered military commanders to break the National Assembly's doors down, quote, with axes or, quote, by shooting if necessary, and drag out lawmakers. Of course, he has repeatedly rejected those claims of orchestrating an insurrection. If found guilty of that, he could be imprisoned for life. Some others involved in that trial, we've got former Defense Minister Kim Yong-hyun, several military commanders and police officials. We have former Interior Minister Lee Sang-min and the Army Chief as well, Park An-soo, who was named the martial law commander. They are all being investigated. The three of them, police chiefs, military commanders, banned from leaving the country. Here's an interesting one, Audrey. Mr. Yoon's wife, Kim Kyon-hee, was also at the center of some of these troubles. In late 23, spy cam footage emerged showing Miss Kim accepting a $2,200 Dior pouch as a gift.
Wow, yeah. So he's definitely not the only one in hot water. So the big question now is, who's next, right? Well, the presidential election is due within just a couple of months, and the race is already heating up. So let's run through some of the top contenders. First up, we have Lee Jae-myung. Lee Jae-myung is widely seen as a front-runner. He's the leader of the opposition Democratic Party, a very seasoned politician who narrowly lost to Yoon back in 2022, and in fact, by the slimmest margin in South Korean history. He's led his party to big wins in recent parliamentary elections and has pretty strong support from liberal voters. Lee was also one of the lawmakers who rushed to parliament the night that Yoon Suk-yeol declared martial law to make sure that the vote went through to block it. But he's not without baggage either. Lee has faced multiple trials, from bribery charges to allegations linked to a billion-dollar property scandal. One election law conviction was overturned, but the rest of his legal saga could still trip him up. Now, here's something that may actually boost his image. Lee survived a knife attack last year. He was stabbed in the neck during a public event and needed emergency surgery. So some say the incident has made him a symbol of resilience, even a political survivor, as they call him.
Politics is a difficult game, isn't it? Next up, we have Han Dong-hoon. He's the ex-leader of South Korea's ruling People Power Party and considered a top conservative contender, and was a particularly vocal opponent of former President Yoon's martial law declaration. He's 51 years old. He's a prosecutor turned politician. He resigned as the PPP leader amid friction in the party over his call for Yoon to resign over the martial law declaration. He's been popular amongst the moderate conservative voters, but has faced some criticism from Yoon supporters who accused Han of betraying his party and allowing Yoon's impeachment by the National Assembly in December.
All right. And finally, there's Kim Moon-soo. He's currently the labor minister, and he's been polling pretty well. Even though he said he's not planning to run, he shared that he, quote, has never thought of nor considered running for president, even as he emerges in polls as the conservative contender. At 73 years old, he would be the oldest candidate if he decides to jump in. Kim has criticized Yoon's arrest and the impeachment process, and that's a position that could appeal to more conservative voters still loyal to Yoon.
And just a quick update on what happens next for President, or former President Yoon, I should say, and his wife. They are expected to move back into their private home in Seoul, where they had lived before Mr. Yoon's election. But here's a big one. They will continue to have the protection of the Presidential Security Services, and that is one of the few benefits that is allowed for a former leader ousted through impeachment.
Okay. And before we wrap up, here's a lighter note, a very South Korean twist to all of the political drama. At one of the anti-Yoon protests, activists organized a K-pop concert.
Oh, so I wasn't entirely wrong when I said we're talking about BTS and Blackpink.
I guess not.
Okay.
But yeah, lights, music, dance routines, the works. It's probably the only protest where fans could chant for democracy and their favorite idol group at the same time.
All right.
There you go.
Stuff.
So what's next? We'll be keeping our eyes on when South Korea officially announces its election date. And of course, we'll be watching how Yoon's legal battles unfold, because this story isn't over yet. Thanks for tuning in to the Breakfast Special on Money FM 89.3.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.